stuff.
Okay, well, speaking of innovation and interesting products, as you know, on this show and Technology Live and in the editorial coverage on our website, we cover 3D metrology quite a bit, as well as everything kind of related to 3D technology. Typically, we cover the hardware, but today we're going to talk a bit about the software. Any of you who have ever purchased 3D measurement equipment know that the manufacturer packages it typically with their own data analysis software, point cloud analysis, 3D measurement analysis. And the software is typically more than enough. The problem is, what if you have equipment from more than one vendor? And that's not unusual. Not every vendor can meet the needs of every single function that they're trying to measure. The software may not have the capability to read from other instruments other than the equipment that it was supposed to function with. Or it may not have the functionality that you would like to have to solve certain problems. That's when you turn to third-party 3D analysis software. And one of the biggest players in this field is spatial analyzer software from New River Kinematics. Here today to tell us about the advantages for third-party analysis software is David O'Neill from New River Kinematics. Hi, David. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Mike? Dirk?
Hey, pretty good.
Good.
So just kind of a brief history of New River Kinematics, and then we'll get right into the advantages of having a third-party analysis software instead of the software that might come with your own piece of hardware.
Well, New River Kinematics, as the name would suggest, we're really an engineering company that does happen to make metrology software. We actually use metrology software early on in robotics-based applications for robotic alignments, and we are spatial relationship experts. That's what we do, and hence the name Kinematics. In the process of doing that, we have developed a device or a software that we felt could take in inputs from multiple metrology devices that we would use or our customers would use and get it into one platform. And that was really the idea. Take any device, whether it be arm tracker, laser radar, theodolite, or even point scanners, and bring them all into one common platform for analysis.
And this would include even CMMs, for instance?
We mostly focus on portable metrology, CMMs being stationary. There are a lot of great products for CMMs, for part inspection. That's really not our focus, although we do have a few applications with gantry-type devices. Okay,
so kind of to get to the crux of the matter then, what is the value of third-party software for doing your data analysis as opposed to the software that comes with your arm, your tractor, your long-range scanner, short-range scanner, etc.?
Well, and that's a good question. I mean, aside from the obvious fact that most of them are designed to run one manufacturer's equipment or maybe something just in that same class of equipment, when you think of arms and trackers and a lot of hardwares like that come with standard software, most of it's designed to do just a handful of things very, very well. And they tend to do them very well, and that most often is inspection. Think go, no-go, is something in or out of tolerance. And that works great if you've got small parts or parts that you plan on rejecting and going back later to figure out how to remanufacture them. But if you think about things like in our world where parts are either very large or very expensive and we need to do rework to them, just to make them fit, we can't trash them, then that's where SA picks up where they leave off. More advanced analysis and having to figure out how to make things work.
Hey David, let me jump in here for a moment. We as you know, and as much the audience knows, we produce the journal of the CMSC for the group, the Coordinate Metrology Systems Conference, the Coordinate Metrology Society. And when you read the journal of the CMSC, you see SA, New River Kinematics, mentioned often in the case studies and white papers that are presented at the show and are presented in that journal. So tell us a little bit about how the different sectors that you work within, how these case studies come to be, and how you work with different people in industry and in academia to do their projects using SA.
Sure. Generally speaking, that traditional inspection, how well did this hole line up to what the blueprint said, tends to be fairly dull in nature, which is probably why you don't see those so much in white papers at the CMSC. But a lot of the things that we do tend to get much more advanced. If you think joining, this is an extreme example, but joining two hulls of a ship, something that's very large that needs to be translated positionally and make sure it's approaching at the right angle. That's difficult to do in most software, and we track everything in 6 degrees of freedom. So we can do things like long-range alignments or joins, or even if we wanted to measure ahead of time to see if they will fit when they get together, we call that virtual fit up. But when you see a lot of these white papers, it's usually somebody trying to do something very complex or something out of the norm that they're trying to share, and we provide a platform that allows really anyone to do anything with their measurement data and make any kind of relationship they want to show deviations, differences, or how things are coming together.
David, give us an example of the types of equipment, maybe an actual case study that you can think of, where you're combining data that comes from one particular type of equipment, like an arm, let's say, and combining that data with another type of equipment. And just kind of show us kind of how these various pieces of equipment might come together for a complex measurement application.
Well, one of the things that we've done recently is we've taken a large area scanner, a surfacer scanner, to scan a old historic church. And for our ability to be able to stitch all these scans together, we used a laser tracker to locate the scanner. We've got an example of it on our website, but you can see how we've stitched it all together. Plus, we used a total station to locate a few fixed points along the church and the outside that we needed to track if we ever wanted to come back at a later date. And that's a great example of using scanner, tracker, and a total station in one platform.
Okay. And then when that data comes together, let's say in the church example, then what was done with the data that might be something that'd be a little unusual to do, and maybe something you wouldn't do in your typical off-the-shelf software that comes with a product?
Well, I think about if you wanted to track something as it changed over time, maybe even if something's getting out of level. You know, trackers and total stations, we can often work in a level plane, so we can establish some level reference points that a scanner may not be able to, and keep some of those things tracked in. That, you know, we're using the benefits of one device to help another. Okay.
Is there something, I guess one thing I'm looking for is something that's kind of unique about Spatial Analyzer over and above, let's say, other products that are out there in the market. Yes, this is your chance to make your pitch for why Spatial Analyzer is so cool.
Well, one of the things I talked about earlier was if you've got something that's small that you can reject based on inspection criteria, you know, that's very good for most of the world out there. But let's say you're dealing with something like an aircraft wing where it's not a matter of is it in or out, it's how to make it work, right? So we usually take the inspection criteria and not just say does it fit, does it not, but we do what we call a relationship fit. And that's the ability to float in all of your tolerances to see if you can make it work, will it fit? And even if you can't, what's the minimum amount of rework you can do? Next Tuesday, when we do the actual in-depth demonstration, that is one of the things that we will be showcasing.
David, I'm glad you pointed out the bit about being able to see if a part will fit even if it's out of tolerance, because I believe one of the things we're going to cover in the webinar that we're doing with you guys next week is, if I remember exactly, there you have a automobile door frame, right, and you're comparing the as-built to the CAD model. And if I remember right, it would appear to be that the door is quite a bit out of tolerance, but what you show that you can do with your software is that Spatial Analyzer can actually analyze that door and see if it will actually fit given the tolerances, even though some of the key tolerances seem to be out of spec. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's about right. When you think of traditional inspection, it's usually aligned to A datum, B datum, and C datum, and then see how everything else fits. And you'll end up with some features that are well within tolerance and some that might be out slightly. Well, what would happen if you were able to float some of those features that were way in? Would that pull some of the others back in tolerance? And that's what we give you the ability to do without having to do a lot of manual work or waiting. We just hit a button and we'll let you know if that part could work or not.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah, and that's obviously next Tuesday, the 21st. That's at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. There is a story link on Spatial Analyzer right below the player page here, and you can navigate out through that, right out to the registration page, and you can check out the webinar on the 21st, next Tuesday. So David, we'll see you then. We're going to get into this much deeper with you and Dirk and Todd Birch and talk about these issues then.
So we're looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Mike. Dirk.
Okay. Thanks, David.
Thanks, David. We'll talk to you then. Yeah, good stuff there. It's going to be a really interesting webinar on the 21st. Again, that's Tuesday, 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.